All right. Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? This is Mr. Huff, and we're going to be going through Unit 3, Lesson 9, which is actually the review for Unit 3. Uh, in Unit 3, we've dropped the quizzes from Sections 5 and 7, but we do still have a test on Unit 3, and that's actually coming up because we are finished with the unit. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to kind of walk you through just a few things to pay attention to as you're doing your studying, your preparation for the test. So I'm going to walk back through actually a few of the lessons from Unit 3 and just kind of touch on some key points. But guys, it's really, really important that you go back and reread these units on your own. Make sure that you're taking good notes, especially of the vocabulary terms. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. So I'm going to actually go back, like I said, through each of these lessons just very, very briefly. 3.1 is kind of an overview. It just tells a little bit about the legislative branch. That's what the Unit 3 is all about, is the legislative branch. That's Congress. That's the branch of government that makes laws. All right, that's what the legislative branch does. So Unit 1 just kind of gives you a really broad overview of that. All right. Unit 2 then kind of gets into how the legislative branch is structured. We have what's called a bicameral legislature, which means that we have two houses. We have an upper house that we call the Senate, and we have a lower house that we call the House of Representatives. And the fact that we have a bicameral legislature with a House and a Senate is a result of a compromise that took place when the Constitution was being written. All right. And this lesson 3.2 does a really good job of talking about that. I would definitely make sure that I go back and reread that and understand the difference between the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan and ultimately what compromise they reached. All right. You see in 3.2 bicameral. I'm just going to kind of flip through a few of these things here. It talks about these terms: session, that's a really good term, congressional term, a really good vocabulary term to know. Okay, and that's 3.2. All right, 3.3 really dives into the House of Representatives. Remember, the House is considered the lower house of Congress for a variety of reasons that we've talked about, and you should go back and make sure you understand why it's called that. But one of the things that makes the House different is that it is based on population. So states with really big populations have a lot of representatives in the House of Representatives. States with really small populations have very few representatives. And because it's based on population, it means that apportionment is really, really important. And I'd go back and look at that term and understand what that is, because that's key to understanding how the House works. All right, so I'd go back and make sure I understood what apportionment means. Okay, this is a really good chart here that kind of explains the qualifications for the House. I'll let you read through that, and we're going to kind of compare that with the Senate in the next lesson. Okay, and then the other thing that's really important to get out of 3.3 is this idea of gerrymandering. So I would definitely go back and reread this, make sure that you understand what gerrymandering is. Okay, so moving on to the Senate. The Senate is considered to be the upper house. It's based not on population, but on equal representation. Every state has the same number of representatives in the Senate. It's 2. All right, so it means that there are 100 senators. Okay, and the Senate works a little differently, and you can read about that. So I'd definitely make sure that I'd be able to compare and contrast the Senate and the House. That's a really key concept. And this chart kind of explains some differences there. I'd read through that if I was preparing for this test. Okay, you can read here about a little more about gerrymandering in this little thing here. Okay, so we're going to go on to 3.5, congressional committees. And 3.5 is just chock full of vocabulary. All right, what I would do is as I'm reading through it, I would write down the word and write down a definition, make sure I understood what all of these things mean. So I'm just going to kind of go through here and just point out some key terms for you to go back and look at. Okay, caucus is a really good term. Standing committee. select committee. And what's the difference between a standing committee and a select committee? Then you have a joint committee and a conference committee. Those are all different things, but you definitely need to know the difference for your test. So I would definitely go back and look at that. Okay. And you can go here. I think this is really good, by the way. They have these glossaries. They kind of pop up and they can give you all of these terms here. Okay. But make sure that as you're going through this, you can that you are able to explain each of these things. Don't just rely just on the glossary, because you have to do it on the test. Okay, so congressional power is what lesson 6 is all about. And I want to point out just a couple of things here. Make sure you understand inherent, expressed, and implied powers. That's super, super important. So make sure you're able to do that. And also understand the importance of commerce power, the power to regulate commerce. Okay, so I'd go back, I'd read that, I'd make sure I understood that. But there's also a really good chart down here that kind of visually explains expressed, implied, inherent powers. Okay, and it gives you some examples here too. So this is really, really good here. This is the second slide on 3.6. That's a really good one to look at. Okay. And it kind of goes through here. And I would go through each slide of each of these lessons if I'm reviewing for the test, because it's all going to be helpful for you. Okay, make sure you go back and reread all of this, but that's kind of I'm just giving you the highlights here. All right, 3.7 is all about non-legislative powers of Congress. Congress's big powers have to do with legislation, meaning making laws, but there are other things that Congress does, and 3.7 talks all about that. We talked about, for example, the 12th Amendment. The 12th Amendment and how that relates to what role the legislature, what role Congress plays in presidential elections. So I would definitely make sure I understood that. And this little chart here at the bottom does kind of a good job of explaining that, but I'd definitely go back and look at that. I'd look at the process of impeachment. What does it mean exactly to be impeached? What's the process? Which house has which role in impeachment? We talked about the process of impeachment. Well, the House of Representatives does one part and the Senate does another part. So I would definitely look at that and make sure I understood what role each House of Congress played in the impeachment process. Okay. In addition, the Senate has some executive powers, specifically the power to approve treaties with foreign countries and to confirm, as we say, appointments of the president. For example, the president will nominate someone to the Supreme Court, and the Senate meets and discusses and has to approve that person to the Supreme Court. So I'd take a look at that. And then also the power to investigate. And this is a pretty good slide here that explains that. So I would take a good look at that. Okay. And again, you can go through this. And then the last one is 3.8, and it's all about how bills become laws. All right, what is the process from which, that an idea all the way through it being a law? And there's several steps involved in that, and 3.8 kind of walks you through that. Look at this little chart here. This is really interesting that over 10,000 measures were introduced or proposed laws, and of those 10,000, only 383 ended up going all the way to being actual laws. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. It's really hard to get a law passed. Okay, and this section talks all about it. I would go back and I'd look at what a public bill is, what a private bill is, joint resolution, concurrent resolution, what a rider is. All of these things are important terms to look at. And then once all of the bill is written, then they're starting to have debate. There's debate in the House. There's debate in the Senate also. And there's a little bit difference. There's a little bit of differences between how the House debates and how the Senate debates. And so I would take a look at that. Slides 3 and 4 of 3.8 talk about that. So take a look there. Okay. And finally, if it gets through all of that process, it ends up with the president, and the president has to sign it to make it law. Okay? And again, you can read through this review. I would encourage you to go back and watch some of these videos. I think they're really helpful. Okay. And then that gets us kind of back to where we started, 3.9 here, which walks you through a review. And I would definitely make sure that I did that. There's a really good chart here, and I don't know if you're going to see it if I click on it, but right here, it opens up differences between the House and the Senate. Okay, so I would look at that chart, as that's a really good review. And then this does here's some really good vocabulary terms. I would take a look at that. Those are super important. There's a lot of vocabulary in Unit 3, okay, but it's all really good stuff here. So I would really focus my studying attention on that. But this video kind of walked you through these terms. Okay. You can practice the short answer section, and then right here, again, there's the glossary. I would take a look at that glossary. That'll help you understand some of this vocabulary. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Take your time. Really do a good job of preparing for this. And when you're ready, good luck on the test. That's it. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.